You're listening to Unfiltered, real talk about sex and love with Ashley
and Heather. And today we're talking about D-Day, discovering sexual betrayal. This is one of the things that we hear commonly where women will talk about D-Day being either the day that they discovered their husband's sexual acting out, or where their husband came to them and disclosed their previous sexually acting out. And so that's what we're going to dig into today.
And most women who have gone through betrayal can vividly remember the day. I mean, usually sights, smells, all those things become a trigger. They can vividly remember the day that they, like you said, discovered or were disclosed to about their husband's sexual addiction. And for some, it was such an embarrassing moment or a moment full of shame. Maybe they were brought into the church's office because they're on staff at church and it was disclosed right there in front of coworkers. There's all different stories I hear, but regardless of how it came out, you usually remember, and it was usually really traumatic. And I just remember feeling completely rocked. And so at the time, I didn't understand at all what betrayal trauma was. I just thought I was overreacting. And that is one of the questions we have is, what is betrayal trauma? A lot of times when you're in it, you don't even know what it is. And to sum it up, like Webster's dictionary type style, it's when we depend on somebody, could be for survival, but just we're dependent on somebody and they betray our trust or well-being. And so that can be a parent, it can be a spouse, it could even be an institution. We can have betrayal trauma from our work, from our church, from somebody that we rely on. And it's a real thing. It's not overreacting.
Yeah, it is a real thing. And the other thing that comes along with that is the way that we end up, once we've experienced that initial trauma, it's almost as though there is a switch that goes off in our brain that physiologically we start to experience symptoms that we've never experienced before. Maybe extreme crying or extreme sleeplessness or wanting to sleep too much, or we're just on, this hyper alert. Just our brain is searching for danger and we can't seem to shut it off. And so there's a huge range of physical symptoms and emotional symptoms that really are evidence of the impact of betrayal trauma.
Yeah, we hear and see language centers go offline. And I distinctly remember sitting in my room when John was going to the gym and just being frozen. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. It was like, for somebody who has a very bold personality, to be just frozen and not know what to do. And then I experienced being at war with myself. This person who I'm dependent on, as we're one flesh. We're supposed to be husband and wife. We run this household together. He's our financial provider. I wasn't working at the time. I had 4 kids at home. The person that I go to for comfort is also the person that betrayed me. And so I felt just like I was in this tornado, this whirlwind, and it paralyzed me. I had so many thoughts running through my brain that I ended up being frozen. And I've also heard it, which I loved this analogy of basically like the file cabinet of your life getting dumped out. And then you're standing there trying to figure out where all the pieces go back. And you don't even know where to start. You're so overwhelmed. And so D-Day for me was 4 years into our marriage. I was replaying the whole entire 4 years of our marriage and trying to figure out what was real, what was fake, what was him covering, what was him gaslighting. And it felt so extremely yucky. And then to have people tell you, why are you reacting so strongly? It's just pornography. Or why can't you just forgive him? He said sorry. And it is confusing. It wasn't for months that I figured out this is actually something happening in my limbic survival response in my brain that's causing me to behave this way.
Yeah. And it's very common. And shows up in a lot of different ways among betrayed partners. So here's another question that we have today is, my husband says I'm overreacting, but the pain and foggy-headedness I'm feeling seems uncontrollable. Is it possible to heal from betrayal trauma? And yes, it is possible to heal from betrayal trauma, but it's definitely going to take time and hard work. Because Ashley, like your analogy that you used about the file cabinet falling over and having to put all the pieces of our life back into this chronological order, that's something that really is very common among partners, is that once discovery happens or disclosure happens, they're basically in their brain going to go through their entire relationship with this person, because immediately you have this sense that, oh my gosh, everything that I know about this person is a lie. This is not the person that I married. This is not the person that I've been with for the last however many years. And so their brain literally goes through and replays all of those significant moments or all of the significant memories. And it can be really challenging and confusing and exhausting to try and sort through what actually is true. What can I depend on? What can I rely on as part of my memory? Or does it mean that now I have to recreate an entire life with this person, which is devastating? Because a lot of times as a partner, you don't even know where to start with that.
Yeah, and it's an indescribable feeling of unsafety. And so you're thinking, for me, what I was thinking is, how can I be in a marriage and feel the way I'm feeling right now? So right there, I was like, okay, I know, as a Christian wife, I want to stay married because of what like divorce is bad. And I didn't at that point know where John was going to go with his recovery, if he was going to recover, if it was going to be like this forever. But my first thought was, my marriage is going to be so miserable. Oh no, I'm going to be one of those unhappily married women who are in a relationship with somebody that they can't trust. And I was so afraid of that. And so I really needed a woman who's been there to borrow her hope, to say, you can come out of this. And that's what I started seeking. I started seeking some kind of safety. And unfortunately, it came off as being codependent or being smothering, because I was just grasping for some kind of stability and safety. And so then when you go to people for help, whether it's your clinician or your pastor, and you're the one all amped up and like looks like you're overreacting, then you could possibly get blamed and say, why are you reacting so strongly? You are smothering him. You are doing these things. And that's something that we hear women who come to Pure Desire say is, I went to counseling and I got blamed for being overreactive. And that happens when you go to a clinician or a pastor or a friend that doesn't understand betrayal trauma. They don't understand that you're experiencing similar symptoms to PTSD, and that you're still living with the enemy,
right,
so to speak. You're still living with the danger, and it doesn't get turned off because you're trying to figure out what just happened and how you can trust going forward, which you can't in the beginning. And so you're just kind of like in this crazy place, and it's lonely unless you have somebody else that understands it.
Right. And this is one of the things I think that is so empowering about Pure Desire groups, Betrayal and Beyond groups specifically, is because you're walking this journey with other women who are in the same place as you are, or who have been in the same place as you are, and they've found healing from it. And so that's the other place where, like, if you're just grasping for safe people and even wanting to borrow someone's hope for a while, the leader in your group, she's probably been to a place where, or is to a place where she's found sustainable healing, and she could be a great source of hope for people.
When I received my Betrayal and Beyond book, it was over 10 years ago, and I'm quoting, overreacting because John was going to the gym, which I know is a sexual trigger for him. I was left feeling so misunderstood and thinking, oh, maybe this is my problem. Maybe I need to be more trusting. Maybe I need to not be so rigid. And when my book came, I opened up to the trauma section, specifically because I'm like, I feel like I'm in trauma, but I don't really know. And I opened up to the trauma, and I started going through the questions that were like control versus trauma. And I realized, no, I'm in trauma right now. And that just even gave me better language to say, what can we do so that you can still work out and I can feel safe? Because this trauma is still really alive and well right now. And then it helped us create a plan versus me just freaking out every time he went somewhere and then him thinking I was being controlling. That's just an endless cycle of nothing. And so The Betrayal and Beyond material gave us both understanding of what was happening so that then we could create a plan and have grace for each other too. So along with that, as somebody who talks with hundreds of women who come to us and go through our groups and, are part of groups online and in churches, we often hear people refer to their life as, well, before pure desire or after pure desire. And so we have women that want to know, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? And the best way I can describe it is when something like this happens, when D-Day happens, normally it's a sense of, for me at least, it was a sense of shock and relief because likely there were things going on that you could feel in your household that you maybe didn't have language to. And so I would always say, there's something going on and I can't put my finger on it. And I was always worried the boogeyman was going to come out of the closet. The other shoe was going to drop. What other analogies are there? The veil was going to be torn away. I mean, I started to sense into year 4, like year 1 through 3 felt pretty good. And into year 4, I'm like, there's something going on and I don't have language. And so I started praying, God, either help me have more trust because I knew I was carrying in some trust issues from my past, or show me what's going on in my marriage. And so then when discovery happened, I felt shock and anger, but I also felt relief that there was an answer to what I had been feeling. And so this is the moment in a couple or an individual's life when this comes out and the dross, so to speak, has come to the surface, you have a decision what you're going to do with it. And more often than not, I am not a math person, but just based on my experience, the last 9 years of overseeing groups at Pure Desire, I would say 95% of people will say, I am better for going through that recovery process. And like you said, Heather, time doesn't just heal it and go away. There's that story of Dr. Ted jumping into the dumpster when he heard that alarm in like Kansas or Kentucky or something.
Yeah,
because
he was triggered.
He was triggered. His brain remembered wartime. And that can happen even with betrayal. And so we really need to go in there and rewrite and rewire these experiences so that we can not stay stuck and our body doesn't store all the trauma. And that's why we hear women say before and after, because whether their marriage ends up working or not, which I say most that we see go through a group end up, their marriages get better. When both people are working, they often get better. But no matter what happens, they will say that was a point of change for them. And it ends up being this divider in their life of like, when I was living in this fog and then I came to reality, even if it's a new reality, even if it's a painful reality, it's this pivotal moment in their marriage where they had a choice and things changed after that.
Yeah. And a lot of times by the time that some women come to Pure Desire and they're seeking help, their D-Day, their discovery day or disclosure day, it was several years ago. And so they've been just living with this constant feeling of something is wrong. I don't have language for it. I don't know how to fix it, or I shouldn't have to be the one to fix it because he's the problem. And so by the time that they get to us, there's been a significant amount of time where they've just adapted to living that way. And so then when they come and discover the tools that we have and the language that we use, and we validate that, yes, everything that you're going through is real and it's because you're experiencing betrayal trauma, I just think that there is, like you said, this pivotal moment where it's like, oh my gosh, these are my people. They understand what I'm going through. Nobody in this room is going to tell me I'm overreacting. Right? I mean, and that is just so an amazing thing for women, especially when they've been maybe searching for help, but they haven't been able to find help that is really going to give them the healing or the relationship healing that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will hear women say, you just put language to what I was feeling.
Yes.
Because they don't know how to articulate it. They've never been around any environment where it's verbalized. And so that's what makes me so excited, just even to have the opportunity to answer these questions. And we just really want women to know that nothing is off the table. If you can think it, then we can talk about it. And we want that to be hammered in, that we do not have to be afraid as Christian women to ask the questions we're thinking or to share the struggles that we're going through so that we can come together as the body of Christ, as sisters in Christ, and help each other.
Right. And we want our audience, we want their questions. We really just, from day one, want to encourage you that if there's some pressing question that you haven't been able to find the answers to, we want to help you find the answers. And even if it's something that we don't know, we are going to go the extra mile. We're going to do the research. We're going to find the experts. We're going to tell you what they say. But it starts with you emailing us your questions. So please email us at unfiltered@puredesire.org. That's unfiltered@puredesire.org.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you'll come back and bring your questions to us. And just remember that if you can think about it, we should be talking about it.